Hi,
Hello.
I'm Julian.
Sad Sack Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here in the West Pasture to talk about Outer Range Season 2, Episode 7, which is known as a finale. This
Mm-hmm.
episode is called The End of Innocence. This is
End
also
of a series.
the end of this program, despite the fact that it doesn't seem like the end of the program. It is most definitely the end of this program. For those of you that don't know, Outer Range was not renewed for a third season, which is very surprising considering how much advertisement Amazon poured into this show. Maybe it'll be picked up by, what was that one app that had TV shows that were like 7 minutes long?
Oh man,
Quibi?
that coming went. Quibi, yeah, maybe.
Quibi.
I don't know.
All right. I think it's going to be picked up on Quibi, or it'll be picked up on Corncob TV or whatever it is, one of those random Midwestern drama stations
That'd be great.
that's only streaming on Peacock during the midnight hours. Tom, it's kind of sad. I I want to say I like this show. I wanted to like this show. I found this show bonkers and enjoyable, and it feels unfair, kind of like 1899. It just feels unfair that the show got axed in the way that it did. I'm not saying that it was like quality enough to warrant 6 seasons in a movie, but it's just a disappointment that we couldn't have gotten it one more season just to finish up whatever the vision was that this is supposed to be, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like they could have done that with this season, but after watching and digesting everything, I feel like they had very much like Lost vibes where they were so much more interested in asking more questions as opposed to answering anything, and just like they kept piling on more and more when there was just loads of interesting things from the first season they could have touched on. I think it was a bummer. I think overall, I feel like as opposed to 1899, which I thought had a very compelling and interesting season one, I thought that was the same as this show, and it had a chance to do more, but it squandered it to me.
Sure. I believe that the ending to 1899 was certainly more satisfying. They took a big swing, but you could say, okay, the story's over.
Right.
This one definitely felt like, I think I messaged you right after I watched it, and it was like, oh, they didn't know they were getting canceled. Like, they did not wrap this up in a way that when you say this is only the beginning, and it's like,
Cut to credits.
your agent calls you, and you're like, listen, Imogen, it's not only not the beginning, it's certainly the end. So we're sorry. We got to go find you a new project to work on. But
It was kind of comical having watched this a little bit later than it premiered, and knowing that it did get canceled by the time we watched the finale. To have that be the final line was just, I wrote in the outline HA, 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 HA so many times.
yeah, which I believe stands for laughing, for those of you that can't spell or read. Is there a Twitter account out there that's just repping for this show? They're like trying to get people to sign petitions and trying to bring it back. Is there someone who really like lost their mind about this show? Please tell me there is, Tom. And
I'm sure
do we
there
follow
is.
them?
The problem is with this show, like I wasn't as active on Twitter because we started it so late that I didn't want to ruin anything. So I purposely stayed away. But I'm sure they're out there. And now that we have finished the whole season, maybe I'll go out and join these forums and add some friends and follow them.
Tom, you're a father. You could be spending your time better elsewhere. So
True.
my recommendation is let's just throw this one in the hole and move on with our lives. And if it comes back 6 years from now when someone, I don't know, I'm assuming the Ford Motor Company acquires the IP because they buy, who knows, the West Pasture and Disney, then we will get our third season. But
Fair.
let's talk through this one. We're not going to go heavy in depth just because a lot of this show is questions, and essentially we're not going to get any of them answered. So
Let's answer them ourselves. Let's
sure.
just come up with answers on the fly.
That's fine. We take on full responsibility of anything we get wrong when we're answering these questions. I felt like the second season, they were like, hey, have you guys ever heard of a dream sequence? And they're like, yeah, we've seen them in other shows. And whoever was running this show this season was like, good because we're going to do a ton of them. And so this starts with, I guess it's a memory, maybe not necessarily a dream sequence, but the family's all having a lovely outside dinner. It just seemed dusty to me, you know?
Oh yeah. First thing I thought of, like, how do they get this table outside? Like, they didn't have double wide doors, very heavy, a lot of work just to be able to eat in, I don't know, the bright sunshine of the. I'm assuming this is the summer. It seems miserable.
Sure. Oh, they definitely took the table legs off that table, took it outside, reassembled it, put the cornucopia in the center, brought out a turkey, and celebrated outdoor, I don't know, Thanksgiving. So it looked like a lovely time. This leads to Royal and Cecilia having a moment. A lot of Royal and Cecilia, like, forgiving each other and renewing their vows throughout this. It's like, all right, we're going to have you guys yell at each other, but we're also going to have you guys make up. And I think, I know I'm speaking for you, is that Royal and Cecilia, there should have been more making up, if you know what I mean, after these arguments. Maybe on that kitchen table out in the yard. I don't know. It seems like we're just passing forgiveness around and we're watching this marriage reconnect over and over again. Time's a flat circle, Tom. Or wait, no, time is a river underneath the ground or something. I don't know. There's a lot of time as a something in these shows.
I feel like you keep talking about Royal and Cecilia getting together here. I feel like you're just having like flashbacks to True Detective season 4 with
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. There it is.
Jodie Foster on the nightstand in Alaska.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hey, go join us for True Detective season 4. We did that show. And guess what? It had an ending, and it was just as bonkers. There's some spiritual kinship between this show and that show, right? There's like a supernatural element. There's like pseudo cowboys and people that are police officers shooting other people. Spoilers.
Very true.
But yeah,
from the same show.
It is. Time's a flat circle. We didn't get enough. I will say, in the finale, we did not get enough Billy.
Please, Dad.
For maybe obvious reasons. But Billy's all we wanted from the show. But we most certainly did not get enough Wayne. Wayne takes a turn here where, oh man, Will Patton. He calls Luke and he calls him Cain. Some Old Testament, a lot of Old Testament vengeance talking about for the Tillersons. So it's not surprising that his son became Cain. Because he killed Billy, and then Wayne does some sweet burning, and we had seen this in a flashback, right? So this is finally the payoff. Yeah, that's right. It was the trailer. You're right.
Yeah, I feel like they completely gave it away. Like this is more just like trailer fodder than it really made sense for him to burn down his entire house. But I guess he knows his world is over with the loss of his 2 sons, and essentially, I guess his 3rd son being dead to him. I just kept thinking about these poor legal owls, right?
Sure.
It's kind of a bummer.
Sure. Well, they were already dead, Tom, so they didn't really feel the
so
burning.
Majestic.
If they were alive, this scene would have taken on a very different...
Flying around the house.
House on fire.
That's why it spread so quickly.
Devil birds. He's like, oh, what I've created is burning my house down. And they're just like, whoo. And he's like, you. And then he runs out of the house. This led to the subtitles telling me that a Noah Reid song was playing, Tom. And the only reason I clocked this was because of you. So thank you, good sir.
It's great. We got one more post-mortem Noah Reid jam singing Dreams from Fleetwood Mac. And so I had to look this up to see, because we had talked about it previous. I know Reid had sung some other songs and like actually had like albums or songs you can listen on Spotify.
And Noah Reid is Billy, for those of you that are joining us for the first time.
But he has an album on Spotify called T is for Tillerson album, which has 5 songs, all from the show. So all these different ones that he had, like Every Rose Has Its Thorn and some of the other ones. And it is all Noah Reid just going for it. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. I think I was literally listening to him in the background while I was taking notes for this pod.
Oh, incredible. It's like there are guys on Yellowstone that sing songs and release albums now. I don't think you're allowed to be in a Western show without, like, you put on the hat and you're kind of like, you know what? I think I should
do
be a
this.
country music star. Can I do this? And
Well, he did it in
not,
Schitt's Creek, right? Like he did some singing there, and he was fantastic. So I'm sure this actor just likes to sing, loves to sing. It was kind of like comical in the first season, but the guy's got a voice, and it's great.
sure. I'm not saying he's wrong, Tom. I'm just saying there's something about a cowboy hat that gives people the notion they can be country music singers, or in my case, a small town marshal, just like Gary Cooper and High Noon. You know, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
We cut to young royals. So where we left these two was the pit had reappeared, and Perry is like debating whether or not he's going to be a father and jump in the hole. Which Sad Sack Perry, one of my least favorite characters in the show, a serial killer and a bad dad. But young royal is like, listen, I don't know. He gives him a speech about sons and birthrights, and then he sends him through the hole. He doesn't kick him through the hole, right? Perry jumps
No.
on his own.
It's a missed opportunity. I think he gives the lines like, you tamper with what's wild, you're bound to get kicked. And I mean, the perfect opportunity to kick him in like Spartan style into the hole would have been great.
Yeah, he should have been like, did somebody say kicked? And Perry would have been like, you just said it. You said kicked. And
This is Wabang.
I mean, I don't. Honestly, it works better if you're just like wabang and then you kick him. Like it's kind
Like
of
a
its
cartoon.
own sound effect, you know?
There should have been like a old school Batman style like Wabang on the screen with like a little Starburst
Oh yeah,
around it.
yeah. That would have been great. Yeah, my issue is because the show got canceled and isn't going to be 6 seasons in a movie, we're not going to get like the spoof version of it, which I think we'd
Yeah.
all like to see.
Pity.
Much like any of those spoof movies that we grew up on, like Scary Movie, and that's honestly the only one I can name. So I'm going to move on. My parents didn't let me watch those movies. All right, we're with...
Naked Gun. Those are the only spoof movies you need to watch.
Yeah, well, those were the good ones. I'm talking about the ones that they tried to
bad
reboot when
ones.
we were younger, and
Yeah.
they were garbage, according to my parents, who watched it, and they wouldn't let me into the living room. Anyways, I watched it from the
Stairs. Through the banisters.
Yep, that's right. All right, Luke and Autumn are talking, and Luke's like, I want that west pasture. That's all I want in this life. And I don't believe these two's love story. I'm going to say it here. I know it's the finale of the show. I thought Billy and Autumn were better suited together, and I miss Billy.
Yeah, I feel like they just were trying to give Luke more to do. I didn't like how they just casted Billy aside and had Luke do the same exact thing that Billy could have done.
Well,
I
he
just
has
don't
he has
get it.
singing engagements now, Tom. He got booked up
Yes.
pretty quick with that country cover art or album that he was dealing around town. So
That's very true.
probably he was probably very busy.
I would argue that Luke doesn't seem like he's in the best condition to be driving. He seems to be in a rough spot after just murdering his brother.
Yeah, that's fair. And he probably listened to that voicemail. And he's like, Dad called me Kane. Great. My dad's having some sort of mental episode. He doesn't remember my name. And then I'm assuming you know the story of Cain and Abel, Tom.
I do. I do.
Okay, wonderful. We didn't have to open Julian's biblical story corner.
But listen, I know what it is because I'm such a well-read biblical man.
Sure.
If you want to share with the rest of the audience, that'd be great.
Oh, yada, yada, yada. One brother kills another brother. Yada, yada, yada. It's not right. You know, we move on. All right. I'm so glad my mom doesn't listen. All right. Luke is, I guess, recalling his visions, and he's like, I saw us leading people. And I think this is where Autumn is like, Billy, did something happen to him? And she's ultimately like, well, he like fulfilled his purpose. And she's like, it's okay that you beat him to death with a wrench, or it wasn't a wrench. It was a candlestick it was a revolver in the makeshift hospital room in the house.
Fire poker in the keyboard studio. Billy.
Keyboard studio Billy. Yes. But Autumn, very lovely thought here. She says, hey, nothing's final. Not even death. And it's like, name your source, lady, because it seemed pretty final when he turned his head and I had bludgeoned him to death. I don't know.
He's in a better place?
Were, better place. Were we supposed to... Was season 3, or were we getting like deep supernatural, like even the dead are not dead? Is that where this was going? Does she truly
Well,
believe this, or is this just bonkers Autumn?
I think it's just bonkers autumn, but I want to talk about the next scene here where we get to kind of Perry and his time travel elements that he's kind of doing. Because I feel like this really opens it up to timey-wimey craziness.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't like this at all because it broke rules. I felt like because now Perry comes back and he arrives prior to when he left, and so I was confused by this. He walks up to the house, he sees like Amy and Cecilia hanging out. It's all good, and he must remember this day because then he drives to the bar, and so this is all prior to the bar fight that kicked it all out. It was a little bit weird. They show him in the truck driving, and he's rubbing his hands, and he's like, "I get to murder again."
Here we
Excellent.
go.
He
We
was
get to do
so
it together.
excited. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna keep jumping through this hole just so I can murder someone over and over again." He's like Montgomery Burns.
But this essentially, to your point, breaks rules. Like this opens up the concept of a multiverse. Like he's coming and seeing himself, which is why his original version gets killed, and then he takes over, I guess, his body by throwing him in the hole. Like I just don't love this idea of them changing this concept, because when Royal jumped in, it was him jumping in at different times, but he didn't exist in multiple time periods. So, I don't know. There maybe could have been something cool, but I would argue we're getting way too much multiverse in our media recently, like whether it's DC and Flash or everything Marvel nowadays. I feel like they just felt like, hey, we're dealing with time travel stuff. Let's make a multiverse.
Sure. Well, it doesn't help that we just did Dark Matter, which
True.
is kind of the same thing. It's going through, instead of a dark matter box, we're just going through a hole in a West Pasture. I honestly don't think I made that connection until you just started talking about multiverses
It's everywhere.
and getting your life back. And it's a little bit like The Prestige in a way. It's like, okay, now I have to get rid of my dead body. How do I get rid of my dead body? I hire a blind guy to keep it in a water case in the bottom of the stadium.
Spoiler alert.
You're welcome, people that
Do you
haven't
think
seen
this-
Christopher Nolan's masterpiece Prestige.
Do you think this explains how Royal, and when he talked to Joy, has like a different recollection of him killing his father? Because like he thinks he actually shot him in a hunting accident, whereas he was actually protecting Joy in her version. Is this like a multiversal Royal? Like it's not maybe the same one?
Sure. Unfortunately, that's what happens with these things. It's like
Right.
anything's possible at this point, and there are no
Yeah.
rules. And I just hope we don't discover multiverse in like real life, because that would really put a damper on. If I had to meet myself from another timeline and I was like more successful and more handsome, which would be tough to do, I would be so jealous, and I'd probably end up murdering that version of it and throwing it in a hole in the West Pasture, if I'm being honest. So this is why multiverses shouldn't exist. Tom, your thoughts?
You're a very handsome man, very successful.
That's
love
not
your
what I was
family.
asking for, Tom, but I appreciate it. Jimmy, if we can cut that and just send it to my own
Your ringtone?
personal drive, that would be nice. I'll make it my voicemail, which doesn't really make any sense. Perry, okay, so Perry disposes of his own body. I'm sure the look on Perry's face whenever he gets to throw a body somewhere or handle a dead body is just pure excitement, even his own. In fact, I think he got a bigger rush handling his own dead body than he has from any of the other victims of the serial killing.
Yeah, that's why Amy's always so angry.
Oh, yeah, that really paid off. Golly. All right, let's not go negative, Julian. We like this show. Okay.
Ted Lasso.
I'm talking to multiverse me. Rhett drives up, sees the blood in the belt buckle, and is like, oh no, Perry struck again. That was the exact look on his face, my brother. Rhett has been honestly disposing of bodies for Perry's whole life. This is season 3, is Rhett cleaning up bodies.
Probably.
But this leads to Joy. Joy, spending 4 years in a teepee, now can only sleep in the yard, and is the queen of all the animals, because all of the animals are showed up to watch her sleep, much like that newborn in the manger in the stable. And Did the other people see the animals?
No, I don't think so. I think these are like visions from her time travel-ness. I'm assuming like we had a lot of like bear and buffalo imagery in the first season where we got no resolution with what Cecilia was doing with that bear in the first season. But the way they represent them, it almost seems like these are going to be representative of characters, like the bear, the buffalo, the wolf, and the falcon. They're all very prominent. So I'm sure it's setting up something for a future state, but I don't think it's worth even speculating on because we're not getting any more.
Sure, sure. Tom, are you a bear, a buffalo, a wolf, or a falcon?
Oh, I'm a falcon, baby, all day long.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair. Same question? Oh, thanks, Tom. I would be a bear making sweet, sweet friendship with the buffalo, the wolf, and the falcon, and whatever that offspring is would be my spirit animal. So I would be a Beefall Ulfkun is what that would be. That was great, and we're going to leave it in. I have no regrets with that joke at all. All right.
Was it a joke?
I think if you look in, there's some bones of a joke in there. You gotta search for it.
Okay.
If you whistled at it, it would turn around. If you called out to joke, it would turn around. All right. Luke and Autumn drive to the compound, and this compound is obviously where Amy and Rebecca are. Autumn as the cult leader that the pastor has identified her as for some odd reason. She can talk her way into any compound. She's just like, listen, I'm going to be running this building in probably 6 months, so you should just let me in now. And they're like, oh, she speaks from the prophecy. And so they let her in, and she talks with Amy. And then she essentially convinces Rebecca to let Amy go with her, and she's just kind of terrible to Rebecca. Is that right? Yeah?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, this is like pent up Autumn rage that she's wanting to get back at her mom. And I guess you can make the argument that Autumn is definitely an angry person, but not Amy. So I don't know what they're playing at. But like Amy, I think she eventually says to Rebecca that you took Amy out of spite and not love. I don't know. I feel like I wanted more from like Rebecca's storyline. I thought it was so interesting and intriguing in the first season how she was gone. We didn't know what the circumstances were, and then we just come to find out that she was having an affair and just secretly took her daughter back. Like I don't understand why she couldn't have been with her daughter in the first place.
Yeah, she was mad at her mother-in-law, so she punished Perry and went to a sweat lodge. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I wish there was a little bit more.
It could have been interesting, but it was kind of a bummer. I also feel like Rebecca just kind of gives up Amy and lets her go with Autumn very quickly. Not a whole lot of fight there.
Well, I mean, she was doing like yoga on a rug outdoors. She's not a fighter. She's a yoga-er, I think is the term.
That's right.
So in Autumn, so grown-up Autumn, not Amy, grown-up Autumn, when she calls her mom and she has like family members, that's not Rebecca, right? That's got to be
no. It's
that
whoever,
would
like,
be whoever adopts
Amy.
her.
Yeah.
Some wealthy family adopts her, and she's trying to discover who she is, and that's why she winds up here
Correct.
in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay. And this all ends with Autumn wiping space dust on Rebecca, which is like a pretty dope move. Like if you could just rub cocaine on someone's face at the end of an argument or like to win an argument. Tom, sorry, I don't want to trigger you.
It's okay. It's okay.
But like, I don't know. I think I might start carrying around like cocoa powder. And when I'm done talking to someone, I'm just going to rub it on their face.
Well, just Folgers Original.
Sure. Well, that's expensive. I'm probably going to find the cheapest powder. So not cocaine, not cocoa. It's probably going to be like paprika, maybe chili powder, something along those lines.
Ouch.
Get arrested real quick. But yeah, so I guess this causes Rebecca to be confused, so she can't like fight for Amy. And also makes her speak gibberish later on in the episode. So Tom, I know you're not an expert on applying powder to people. So I feel like this is my moment to educate a little bit.
Please.
She puts it on her fingers and like smears it across her face. That's not the move. What you do is you cup it in your palm and then you say magic, and then you go and you blow it out of your hand into their face. And that's the way you properly apply space drug to someone else's face. So
That would have been pretty cool.
I can't hear you writing that down, but I would assume that you are taking notes.
It's a mental note.
Okay, a mental
Yeah,
note.
yeah.
Good,
Good one.
good. All right, Wayne's at the hole, and he's doing well, right?
Oh man, Wayne's looking rough. He's been through it.
I was surprised he ran out of the burning building. This Wayne, I felt, was a little bit committed to going down with the burning lodge owl habitat. But he ran all the way to the hole for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, he runs. He says something like, "Oh, this all makes sense," and then just jumps in the hole. Like I mean,
Yeah, Tom,
I
we
can
don't.
ask-
Yeah, no, that's it. We don't need nothing to explain. It all
Okay.
makes sense. He jumps in. I think we move on to the next scene. I don't. It feels like you have questions about this, and I gotta be honest. I don't think we need to, because I think it all makes sense. The world
Okay.
makes sense. He jumps in.
I
No,
was gonna ask,
bonkers.
where's he going? What's
Bonkers.
going on?
No,
But
these
like,
are all good questions.
we know in season 1 he is in the flash forward where they do like the countdown thing when Royal appears, which again is like a big bummer we didn't get anything. That was like such the coolest like cliffhanger weird element that happened in season 1, and they don't touch it at all in this season. That was such a letdown for me. But we know Wayne is still around in some form or fashion, so I'm assuming he's going to go back and maybe just like that Perry took over this Perry's life, maybe he's going to take over the other Wayne. I don't know. Again, I know we're not going to ever find out, but
I think we do this, Tom. Okay, so our choices are he shows up in the 1800s where Joy went. What happens? Okay, a guy like Wayne shows up. He's immediately like murdered because he says something terrible to the tribe, and they probably scalp him. Right? I'm gonna assume that's what happens to him.
I think he's just going to join the townspeople that were just ready to attack everything.
That's true. Or Royal's mom, who was already married to like a terrible, horrible human, is like, hey, my terrible, horrible human was murdered in the woods. I'm looking for a new one. And Wayne Tillerson's like, I'm your guy. Do you like singing? And he's like, do you have any dead owls? And so that's what happens if he goes to the 1800s. If he goes to young Royal in terms of where Perry went, I'm assuming he just goes and hits on Cecilia until he's arrested for harassment, right? He's like
Probably.
hitting on young Cecilia, probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then he
he's
murders that
gonna-
old
he's gonna
lady and
take
takes
out-
over the clothing store, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, opening up this whole multiverse thing just kind of changes everything. I was going to say this kind of at the end of like we're recapping the entire show, but I think the problem with this season is they just throw every character in the hole. Like, you just don't need to. Like, the hole is fun when there's like a little bit of mystery and you've got one main character dealing with the fallout of it. But this season they threw what, 5, 6 characters into the hole? It's bonkers, man. What are they
The way
doing?
you say that, it's like there's a diving board and they all just show up. And they're like, hey, will you watch my towel and my wallet? I'll be right back. And then they boing off the diving board into the hole. That's a great point. I did not think about how much hole diving we did. And
Yeah.
it's a little bit like any of these shows. It's like, it's fun while the mystery's there. But then once we know the mystery, and if we keep playing up the mystery, it's, it's horror movies too. It's like once you see the monster, the mystery's a little less. But it is fun to think of Wayne Tillerson in any of the other timelines. And there's like, if a poster appeared on the wall and he was just like an old crooner, like a famous crooner, and they're like, oh, that's Wayne Tillerson or Wayne Tillenberg. He had to change his name. He's like a great country western singer, and he used to be around these parts. I don't know. It's I'd watch Will Patton go through any of the timelines and just exist. I love
Listen,
him that
maybe
much.
Outer Range is canceled, but yeah, maybe we're gonna get a spin-off show of just Wayne, traveling through time on like Quantum Leap.
That's where all the resources went to. They're like, hey, we're shutting down the main feed, but we made a deal with Will Patton, and we're going for it. All right. All right. So with Amy stolen from the compound, Royal and Cecilia are trying to get there as well. Did we already talk about? They already beat up Lewis. That was in the last episode, right? Poor Lewis, just getting roughed up. They call Autumn, and they show up at the compound. And Rebecca is high on space dust. Once again, not applied correctly, just kind of smeared on her mouth. But she keeps saying she is a gift for time. And I wrote that in the outline. Tom, we talked about it before we started podcasting. Still don't know what it means. Not real sure what the show's trying to tell us. Would we like to bloviate about it at all?
Nope.
Wonderful.
I mean, I guess the whole idea is like Amy Autumn, she is the piece of this puzzle. I guess she says it here to say like Amy is the final piece of the puzzle.
Ooh,
so
good
it's
impression. That was really
thank
good.
you.
That was a great royal.
So from like Autumn's perspective, I think to set all the things she's seen in her visions like in motion, she has to get Amy into the hole. And I feel like once she does that, she feels like, you know, at the very end, this is just the beginning kind of thing. But I don't get it. I don't understand what the greater purpose of all that really means.
Well, I mean, she's a prophet, so a false prophet, but we don't really know what her ends are. But it is a little weird that, to your point, they've thrown everyone else in the hole. For her to be like, okay, Amy's the final piece, it's kind of like, yeah, everyone else has been thrown in the hole at this point. Of course, you're just like, they're going to throw Amy in, and she's going to be like, oh, that didn't work. And they're just going to work their way down the census of Wabang until they find the right person to throw down the hole.
Well, and the other interesting thing is, like, yeah, they threw in all of our main characters in the hole, but then we also saw whoever Joy met when she kind of went back in time on the reservation, or the, like...
You're talking about Star Child, or whatever her name was?
Yeah, I can't remember. But, like, the assumption would be everybody going through this hole is, like, a part of Royal, and he's kind of like the puzzle, or Autumn's the puzzle, but, like, no, they're seemingly... people just fall in the hole, and it happens, and they're just regular people. So who knows who else has potentially gone through this hole? It kind of like also took some of that gravitas out of this being Royal's story.
Well, there are comments made not only in this season but the other season about people like appearing and disappearing. So there is other people outside of this storyline that are falling in and out of those holes. We're still looking for those cows, Tom. We're still looking for those cows. And I don't know if you clocked this, but I think the episode where the tribal police are at the border waiting, one of them is pitching his brother apparently like a story he's creating. And he's like, and the guy just appears and he's from this time. And his brother's like, wow, that's a really dumb story. And I was like, show, you can't do that. You can't say your own story is dumb. That's not allowed. Like, we say it's dumb. You've got to pretend like you're making art. I don't know. So to your point, yes, I think people are falling in and out of these holes. Speaking of which, Royal tells Autumn not to throw Amy in the hole, which kind of seems like a given. She's like, yeah, I got it. You're her grandfather. I know you don't want me to throw her in the hole. And he calls Joy. He's like, cut him off at the pass. And Joy's like, I'm kind of going through something right now. And he's like, go alone. Save Amy from the hole. Joy's not getting a lot of support from Royal. No. That's for sure.
Really not. One-way relationship.
Yes. Okay. Rhett and the scientist. So Hot Scientist is back. I'm sorry. Warm Scientist is back. And someone hands someone a bullet.
I think she hands a bullet back to Rhett. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think Rhett should have just said, like, that was a gift, Todd. I'm keeping it.
The painting was a gift. So why are these two now in cahoots? What's going on?
Oh, who knows? I mean, the whole idea is what Rhett is now extorting her for $30,000.
Not extorting, Tom. It's a business proposition. He's going to talk to Royal about the West Pasture, all for the grand sum of $30,000. When he said $30,000, once again, I'm not a rich man. I'm certainly not a handsome man. But when he said $30,000, I was like, Rhett, go higher. Go higher. It's worth more than $30K, brother. What are you doing?
I mean, he's asking it from a geologist. I don't know if they're known for their high income or wages that they're making.
She wants mineral rights. I mean, if this stuff turns into the next jet fuel that gets Christopher Nolan's spacecraft through Interstellar, like, I mean, it's going to be worth more. This is something you read in the history books, and they're like, and Rhett Abbott sold the rights for 30 grand and they were worth $5 billion. And that's why you're watching this show in space, because of space drug rock or whatever powder we're calling it. Devil's powder? What did you call it? What did we agree
I
to
don't know.
call
I guess
this
these
stuff?
two are just really in it for money. Because it jumped then to Maria skimming money from the bank. I was like, what? Like, what's going on? Why is she stealing from the bank? Like,
Well,
that made no sense.
I mean, it would be great if Maria was like, I jumped through the hole, I'm an 1800s bank robber, and this has been my long con the whole time. That's what I assumed was happening. I don't know. I hope Rhett gets more than 30 grand, and I hope Maria doesn't go to jail for skimming a couple $100s off the bank. It seems like banks are one of those places that counts money multiple times, and there's
Not anymore,
cameras. I don't feel like this is going to go well. But we'll never know, Tom, because they canceled our beloved show. Perry throws a body in the hole, and he goes, 3-point swish, I believe is what he says.
I have a question. Is this Sad Sack throwing Murder Perry in the hole, or Murder Perry throwing in Sad Sack? Or is it like a chicken and the egg kind of question?
I think it's Murder Perry, because this is murder. So this guy has murdered. So this is Murder Perry. He would be throwing Sad Sack in the hole.
But
'Cause
is he a
this
Sad Sack yet is the question.
Yeah, because Rebecca's gone. He went to
Okay.
the bar to
Okay.
drink. Oh, yeah, he was very sad. Now,
Okay.
he hasn't lost Amy yet, but yeah. No, this is Murder Perry throwing Sad Sack in the hole, and he goes, under his breath, he goes, nothing but net. And then...
Go to sleep.
moves on. Go to sleep.
I feel like he's also a thief, right? He steals his ring that he chucked into the hole in the previous episode.
That's fair. The thieving, murdering Perry. I gotta be honest, the whole time I would be cradling my murdered body, I'd be like, man, I should have eaten less because I am heavy. That's what I would be. All that talk of not eating carbs and going on a diet, Julian, really would have helped us out in this moment. And then I would have
that's
moved
great.
my own mouth and been like, I'm sorry, I loved ice cream. Like a puppet. Joy. Okay. Here's the dramatic finish, Tom. Are you ready for it?
Let's do it.
I'll be Joy. You be the tire on the truck. Joy shoots the tire on the truck. Thank you. Good job. Jimmy, you don't have to do anything in post. That was perfect by Tom. Luke and Autumn are there. They have Amy. We've got ourselves a standoff. Autumn's got the, well, it's also Autumn Amy. You know what? I'm going to use all of their names. So Autumn Amy is holding a gun to Amy Autumn. And Joy, I'm assuming her name was like Starry Sky, shoots her. No, she's called like Quick on Gun or something like that. So she shoots
I feel like this
Autumn.
was
and
poorly
Autumn
done by
dies.
Joy. Like
Because she shot very quickly?
Well,
or
not she shot, like,
you're worried
her-
about the bullet placement. Is that what you're worried about?
No, yeah, it's not in the head. No, but
Brutal.
listen, we've seen her. We've seen her be a sharpshooter. No, my whole point is like Joy's one thing that she's supposed to do here is to make sure Autumn doesn't throw Amy into the hole. But she's like circling Autumn and Amy and allowing Autumn to get closer and closer to the hole. Like she should have put herself in front of the hole and in front and between like Amy and the hole. Yet she kind of like allows enough room for her to get pushed in. It was not eloquently done.
Listen, the most sympathetic character in the show is Joy for me. Like, Joy has been through a lot and is not seeming to get a lot of emotional support from anyone else. So if Joy plays this one a little bit wrong, I'm going to forgive her. But yes, there were some things that, like,
It needed to happen to Amy to get in the hole. Yeah.
Right. So I think Autumn, as she gets shot in the chest, goes slam dunk and then pushes Amy into the hole. And in this moment, Royal has a heart attack. And I think he goes, heart attack. And then everyone's just whispering what they're doing. I hope heart attack's a basketball term because otherwise that doesn't make any sense. What was going on here? Why? We've seen some like interconnectivity between. You have any
specifically
theories?
Royal Yeah, specifically Royal and Autumn, where they've touched and the stars have stopped or spun or the mountain has moved. So now Amy going in the hole, it sets off something, and I don't know if it's a heart attack or if he becomes paralyzed. Like,
It's probably just gas.
yeah, probably just he just needs a gas X. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, like we know there's a tie to them in some form or fashion, but we know we're not getting the answer to it. So I don't care to think any further on it.
I mean, is it blood? Is it like a bloodline thing? If it happens,
But Perry's
to...
gone in.
Yeah,
Perry's
but
gone
Perry's
in.
not Royal's kid. I think we know that. I think Perry is a Tillerson. I think that's what it comes down to.
Oh,
You
is that
know?
what you think? Okay, maybe.
I don't know. I just threw that out there to see if it would stick. We're never going to know. Although I am going to, as soon as we're done, email the Juilliard playwright that wrote this just to
Ooh.
ask him.
I'd be very interested.
Actually, that's not a bad idea. I wonder if he'd take our email. Dear Mr. Juilliard playwright,
Are you gonna
my
dictate it?
friend and I do a podcast for 7 people. We would like to know. Sorry, 8 people. We would like to know what was going on in Outer Range. Please write via envelope. Here is a stamp. I think that's what you do. Also, this is an autographed baseball card. Please sign it yourself. All right, we're so at the hospital. This is because Autumn was shot. So obviously, in this situation, we don't just like give her water or drive her around. We take her to a hospital. Good job, guys. We're learning. Joy and Cecilia are chatting. The pastor's like, we're all praying, and he's like, for their death. And we're like, we're religious, so we're terrible. Remember? And he winks at the camera. And then Autumn dies.
Yep, Autumn dies. But I think the pastor like prayed her back to life because then she's fine.
Oh, great. Look, a couple of religious people doing nice things for folks. Whoop-de-doo show.
But yeah, she dies on the operating table from her gunshot wound to the chest, and then
Which
we
you wished
cut
was a
to-
headshot, which would have made the scene even better.
I don't know. I say that very crassly because I feel like just all the shows we've watched recently, anytime there's a gunshot, it seems to be to somebody's head. So
Yep.
it's not great. But yeah, so Amy wakes up in, I don't know, Tucson, Arizona somewhere, and Autumn wakes up at the same time. So I guess because Amy woke up in another time frame, that makes Autumn invincible? Question mark?
So, good question. Why did you say Tucson, Arizona? Because she like wakes
desert.
up on a hiking trail in the middle of the desert?
Yeah, like I feel like a bunch of things happen here that I don't understand. Like, first off, she wakes up in the middle of the desert and found by assumingly her new kind of adopted parents, I guess. I don't
Those
I don't
kids
know.
are young. Those kids aren't taking care of this kid. This kid's like half their
But didn't
age.
she say in like the first season, like her parents were like hikers or outdoorsy people, and that's why she knew how to like do a tent and
Damn,
test
if
an
you
animal
expect me
or-
to remember something from season 1 of the show, which was, I'm quite confident, 4 years ago, no, I do not remember that moment.
But I mean, again, more rules, right? So not only does every character that has gone through this hole knowing exactly, oh, I'm falling through the hole and I'm coming out of this hole and I know who I am. But for some reason, she no longer remembers anything and she thinks her name is Autumn for some reason. That makes no sense.
Did you get the sense that she didn't remember anything in this moment, or did you get the sense that she just changed her name because she kind of believes that's who she's going to become?
No, because they purposely have her sleeping in the car when they're having that existential conversation between Royal and Autumn. Like when they're on the phone and she's talking about how she's like the one and she controls time or all this stuff. Like she has no idea about all this. She may have heard it, I guess, maybe when Joy was confronting her at the hole, but I don't got that sense at all. I feel like she doesn't know anything because we've gotten that, right? Like this is her 9th birthday or something, and this was the traumatic event that caused her not to know any of her previous history.
Yeah, but I would almost believe that she's so overly medicated, like later in life, that she's forgetting all that stuff, or maybe, I don't know, something else happens. I guess I didn't get the sense that she wakes up on this hiking trail and she forgot who she was. And then why would she say Autumn? But we don't know. I don't know. And, but you're right. The rules have changed.
Yeah. The other thing that also makes no sense, too, is it seems like she's the only character traveling through this hole that lands somewhere else. Like everybody else ends up in the West Pasture or ends up in this other hole that Joy like when she went into the hole on seemingly some other person's land, she still came out there. This seems like Autumn or Amy went through this hole and is now somewhere completely different, which again just changes the rules. Not just a different time, but a different place too. Because the West Passage still would have existed if this was, 20 years earlier?
Well, I mean, sure. It's probably
So I don't know. Again, it's just all this kind of
parking
stuff.
lot.
It just bums me because it seems like it's just changing the rules and being very fast and loose with trying to tell the story.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it didn't bum me out, because Amy was alive and now she's got a name that's Autumn, and it sounds like her new parents are going to be super cool. So
Wait,
I hope-
are we sure then at this point is Amy Autumn? Are we confirming that? Or is that still up in the air?
Are you being serious right now? Because now you're
I'm
confusing me. Am I still questioning that? I bought it, but I buy a lot of things. Once again,
Very irresponsible with money.
yeah, extremely. We'll never know, Tom. Although, if he answers my email,
Maybe we will.
we will know. Then we have, once again, a vision from one of the characters that's happening, I guess, as a dream, although they're not really sleeping, and all the characters are talking to him. And guess what? Time is a river, Royal. Is there a comma in there? Time is a river, Royal. Time is a river, Royal? Question mark.
Royal River.
Time is, comma, a river, comma, Royal, question mark. This is your destiny.
Yeah, and I feel like we're getting the river thing kind of thrown at us again. Like Autumn Rivers was her last name. I guess that's the last name at least that she takes. The scientist kind of mentions the idea of like a river flowing beneath the land and like the river being that of time. So we're just laying that on pretty heavy here. And again, might have set up something interesting for season 3, but who knows?
Season 3, they run a kayaking company where you pay money to kayak down the river of time.
Pretty
And
dope.
if you fall in, no one knows what happens to you. You have to sign a waiver, Tom.
I'd imagine, yeah. Many lawsuits.
All right. Tom, help me out here. Royal asked Joy to stop the future. Why is Royal asking Joy to stop the future? What's going on
Royal, yeah, Royal runs into Joy at the hospital, and she's kind of like helping him, I guess, leave the hospital or get to Cecilia. And Royal realizes that Joy's like the only one that understands kind of, sort of, what's kind of going on because she is a time traveler herself, and just lets her know, yeah, you have to help me stop what is going to happen because Amy getting thrown into the hole essentially sets off the rest of what he seemingly has seen in his visions. I don't know.
here? Sure. And then while hugging Cece, is it him who has the vision where Autumn says, and I'll
Yeah,
let you
he's-
have the line, Tom.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Autumn's having the vision. I think we had, and I think you said it during Royal's vision, like it's all the characters are just standing in front of Royal on the Abbott or at the Abbott Ranch, just repeating this line: "Time is a river. This is your destiny." And then it kind of cuts back to Autumn there saying, "This is just the beginning." And again, it's just, and then it cuts to credits. It was like, oh my goodness, this is such a bummer. I felt bad almost for the show that was just so hoping to have and so confidently thought it was going to have a third season to end it here, and this is going to be the end of our series was a disappointing bummer.
Yeah. The overconfidence of being like, the company that bought and paid for us didn't advertise for this show at all. Even the first season didn't feel, you know what? There were ad campaigns for the first season on Amazon strictly. This season, they just dumped in a weird spot. So
I feel like I did see something though that when the series first came out or season 2 came out, like the ratings were actually pretty decent and it got like ranked third in some like high profile internet ranking system of viewership and how many millions of viewers watched within a certain hour time frame or day time frame. So I feel like the audience was there. I don't know what exactly was the catalyst. I don't think Amazon has even said to this point.
yeah, I just hope they spent all the money on season 2 of Rings of Power, because that show was super expensive and super awesome. That's sarcasm, people. That show sucked. So, but Tom and I
If you wanna
talked
know
about
what
it. We had a great
If you
show.
want to know what we said, go watch our season 1. I'll be watching the season 2. I am.
Are you
I don't know if
really?
I'm. Yeah, I don't know if I'm excited to watch the season 2, but you can't record 10 hours worth of podcasts and not at least watch the second season.
Tom,
I've
if
heard
that's
it's
our
supposed to be better.
philosophy, I got news for you, buddy. We're going to get ourselves in some trouble because we're committing to a lot of shows that are just silly. All right, Tom, your final thoughts on this show.
I mean, I feel like the whole concept of the show was all about the struggle of the unknown. In terms of like the billboard sign they had, there was a season 1 episode called The Unknown. I think Autumn even refers to herself at the end of season 1 as like the gatekeeper of the unknown. So I do find it rather fitting that we are ending the season and the series without knowing a GD thing.
You know what? Yeah, good for them. Maybe they planned it this whole time.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy's like, listen, I only wrote 2 seasons, and people are going to maybe want a third, but they're not going to get it. So a lot of questions. A lot of questions.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think overall?
I had fun. Once again, I would not recommend it. Knowing how it ends, I would not recommend it to anyone because it's just so unsatisfying. But like being able to talk through it, if I watched it on my own, I probably would have quit after season 1. But knowing that, you know, we were going to talk about it, I pressed on. It wasn't for a lack of like acting. I thought it was shot well. It looked good. I mean, it's a bonkers story, which is what you want. I don't need the same story fed to me over and over again, and I felt like this one was unique. And I mean, it took place in Wabang, a town close to my heart, and I've always wanted my own West Pasture. So I enjoyed it. I just obviously am disappointed we're not going to get a third season, but that frees us up to do other things, Tom.
Touche. I do kind of feel bad, like you mentioned, the playwright that wrote the first season and seemingly like kicked him out to have more like seasoned showrunners run the show. I'm kind of bummed about that. Like I would have been more interested to see what that guy would have kept doing with his story.
Do you think we got a worse product or a better product having removed him from his vision?
I mean, season 1 was enjoyable. Season 2, I can't say was as enjoyable.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I guess we don't know the inner workings of what other constraints were put on the showrunners that maybe, maybe he let it go on principle. They were like, no, you're not spending any more CG money on buffaloes. You're just going to shoot. And he's like, I have a dream. And that's when he quit. Anyways, for those of you that have walked with us on this journey of 1,000 miles, we appreciate you. You can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to get our viewership up to 9 people. So if you know someone that listens to podcasts and isn't afraid to be, bored or offended, you can recommend us. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of those platforms. I used to use Overcast, but Overcast has started doing something wonky. No shots at Overcast, but it started making me download podcasts, and I'm like, listen, I don't have room on my phone for that. I got to do sports betting. And so, Tom, what did I miss?
Yeah, follow us on the socials at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you've enjoyed our show, we've kind of mentioned a handful of different pods we've done in the past. We started as the Ted Lasso podcast and just had a fun time talking to 2 buds. I've done a whole host of other shows, so go check out our back catalog. And the next show we do have on the docket is going to be Bad Monkey, the Vince Vaughn Apple TV Plus show that I think is based off a book that Mr. Julian has read. So we're excited to kind of get into it and start the next adventure.
Yep, it's a Bill Lawrence show, so the same guy that did Scrubs and Ted Lasso, who I have thoroughly enjoyed, and just, I'm excited. I mean, we both love Vince Vaughn. There were more than one Wedding Crashers quotes in this episode from us. So with that, Tom, thank you. We completed another one. Chalk up another, like a marking on a fighter plane when you shoot down another fighter plane.
Sure.
We did it. And we will be back for the next one. For Team Binge, I've been Julian.
And I have been sad Cowboy Tom. Goodbye, everybody. To the West Pasture, I go.